An ordinary shopping trip turned explosive. What happened? When Melania Trump faced an unexpected confrontation. At a crowded mall, the morning sun cast its glow over Los Angeles's Beverly Center, a bustling hub where shoppers from all walks of life crossed paths. Among them was a woman whose face had graced countless headlines. Melania Trump, dressed in understated elegance. She blended into the crowd, her head slightly tilted down, avoiding unnecessary attention. To the casual observer, she appeared just like anyone else, scanning racks of tailored blouses and silk scarves. But for those who recognized her, the moment carried a strange sense of novelty. The former First Lady, shopping without an entourage or fanfare. It was supposed to be an ordinary day. Melania browsed quietly in a high-end boutique, occasionally running her fingers over fabrics. As soft classical music played overhead, the hum of muted conversations filled the air, creating an atmosphere of exclusivity. She paused near a display of handbags, her gaze lingering on a sleek black clutch. For a fleeting moment she smiled to herself, as if imagining a perfect occasion to carry it. But the peace of her morning was short-lived. From across the store, a woman's voice cut through the calm, sharp, loud and unmistakably directed. "Oh, you've got some nerve showing your face here." Heads turned, conversations faltered. The speaker was a woman in her early 30s, dressed casually, but carrying an air of righteous indignation. She had no hesitation in making her feelings known. Her piercing eyes locked firmly on Melania. For a moment Melania froze, her hand still resting on the clutch. Then, with practiced composure, she turned to face her accuser, her expression unreadable. The room seemed to shrink as tension filled the space, and onlookers exchanged uneasy glances. But the confrontation was just beginning, and no one in that boutique could have anticipated what would happen next. The air in the boutique seemed to thicken as the outspoken woman strode toward Melania, with purpose, her voice rising in intensity, pierced through the stillness. "You think you can just walk around like you're one of us after everything? Unbelievable." Gasps rippled through the small crowd that had formed, their curiosity now shifting into concern. The woman's words were laced with anger, but there was something more, an edge of personal frustration, as though Melania represented more than just herself. Melania, still poised, turned to fully face her accuser. Her features, calm but firm, betrayed no sign of panic. With her hands resting loosely by her sides, she met the woman's gaze directly. The quiet confidence in her posture only seemed to agitate her detractor further. "You stand there acting like nothing's happened, like the world hasn't changed. People like you are the reason we're in this mess." The woman spat, her voice shaking now with emotion. The room seemed to hold its breath. A boutique worker cautiously edged closer to the pair, unsure whether to intervene. Melania, however, made no attempt to respond immediately. Instead she waited, an act that only heightened tension. Finally Melania's voice cut through the air. "Low and deliberate, I don't know you," she said simply, "but I can see you're upset. Perhaps you'd like to talk privately." This offer, spoken with such restraint, seemed to catch the woman off guard. She hesitated, her anger momentarily dimmed by surprise. But it wasn't long before her voice rose again. "Privately? Oh no. You don't get to hide from this. People need to see who you really are." The small crowd grew larger. Shoppers holding their bags now lingered by the boutique's entrance, whispering to one another. Phones emerged, cameras angled discreetly, or not so discreetly, at the escalating scene. But as the woman's voice grew louder, and the tension reached a boiling point, someone unexpected stepped forward from the crowd, changing everything. The crowd pressed in closer, their collective curiosity outweighing any discomfort. The woman's voice grew sharper, each word aimed like a dart. "You represent everything that's wrong with this country. How dare you walk around here like you're untouchable?" Melania didn't flinch, her calm demeanor far from diffusing the situation. seemed to fuel the woman's anger. You've hurt so many people. Do you even care? Or are you just another symbol of privilege, pretending to understand the rest of us? The tension was palpable now, almost suffocating. Every eye in the boutique was fixed on the confrontation. The air filled with murmurs and the faint clicks of phone cameras capturing the moment. The employees stood frozen, unsure whether to step in or let the drama play out. Then, without warning, the woman took a step closer, invading Melania's personal space. Her gestures became more erratic, her voice trembling as she spoke. People like me, we're the ones who suffer while people like you just exist. You have no idea what it's like to be on the other side. The words carried a weight that silenced even the whispering crowd. It was clear this was about more than just Melania. The woman's anger came from a deeper place, a frustration that had long been building, now unleashed on a symbol she couldn't ignore. Melania stood firm, her gaze steady. I understand you're angry, she began, her voice measured. But this isn't the way to. Don't you dare tell me how to feel. The woman interrupted, her voice rising to a shout. Her face was flushed, her hands trembling slightly, as she gestured around the room. You walk around with your head high, while the rest of us are struggling. Do you even see us? Do you care? The crowd was now a sea of phones, their lenses capturing every second of the heated exchange. Some onlookers whispered their support for Melania, while others nodded in agreement with the woman's fiery words. The atmosphere was electric, charged with opposing emotions. But just as the tension seemed ready to boil over, a voice from the crowd rang out, cutting through the chaos like a knife. That's enough. The voice belonged to someone unexpected. And as the crowd turned to see who had spoken, the entire dynamic of the scene shifted in an instant. The voice belonged to an elderly man, his presence commanding immediate attention, despite his unassuming appearance. Dressed in a simple button-down shirt and khakis, he had the kind of quiet authority that stopped people in their tracks. His silver hair gleamed under the boutique's lighting. As he stepped forward, his eyes scanning both Melania and the woman with a calm intensity. That's enough, he repeated, this time more firmly. The crowd parted slightly to let him through, their curiosity now tinged with surprise. The woman, startled by the interruption, turned to face him. And who are you supposed to be? She snapped, her anger still simmering. The man didn't flinch. Instead, he looked her directly in the eye and said, I'm someone who's tired of seeing people tear each other apart. We've all got our frustrations. But this isn't the way to fix anything. His words hung in the air, heavy with truth. For a moment, even the woman seemed at a loss for a response. The crowd, once buzzing with whispered opinions, fell silent, their attention now fully on the man. He turned to Melania, his voice softening. And you, Mrs. Trump. This is a moment for understanding, not pride. If you're willing, maybe you can show the rest of us what grace looks like. Melania's expression shifted slightly, her composure cracking, just enough to reveal a glimmer of vulnerability. She nodded slowly, her voice steady as she said, I am listening. The woman, still visibly upset, crossed her arms. Listening, that's easy to say. But do you even care about what's happening to people like me? The man stepped closer, his tone empathetic but firm. She's here, isn't she? Right now she's standing in front of you, not walking away. That counts for something. Maybe instead of shouting, you can tell her. Tell all of us what you're really feeling. The woman hesitated, her anger faltering, as the weight of the moment settled on her shoulders. The crowd watched intently, their earlier judgment replaced by a quiet anticipation. I'm tired, she finally admitted, her voice cracking. I'm tired of seeing people like her. People with everything, walking around like nothing's wrong, while we're struggling to get by. It's not fair. The man nodded, his expression kind. It isn't. But blaming one person for all the world's problems doesn't make it better. Conversations like this right here, they can make a difference if we let them. The woman looked at Melania. Her anger now replaced by uncertainty. And for the first time Melania stepped forward. Her words offering a bridge. Where before there had only been division. Melania took a small step forward. Her gaze steady and sincere. As she addressed the woman directly. "You're right," she began. Her voice soft but resolute. "Life isn't fair. And it's true that I have privileges many people don't. But I don't walk around pretending nothing is wrong. I see the struggles, the pain. Even if it's not always my own." Her words were calm. But they carried a weight that silenced even the skeptics in the crowd. The woman blinked. Her defensive stance softening ever so slightly. "I can't fix everything," Melania continued. "But that doesn't mean I don't care. If I didn't, I wouldn't be standing here listening to you, trying to understand. You have every right to your feelings. And I respect that, but maybe we can use this moment to see each other as people, not enemies." The woman hesitated, her emotions visibly warring within her. She glanced at the elderly man, who gave her an encouraging nod, and then back at Melania. "It just feels like no one listens. Like no one really sees us," she admitted, her voice cracking. Melania stepped even closer, her presence now commanding but compassionate. "I see you and I hear you," she said simply. "Tell me what you need me to understand. Not as someone you're angry at, but as someone who's willing to listen." The raw sincerity in her tone seemed to break through the woman's defenses. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took a shaky breath. "We're just trying to make it to feel like we matter. It feels like no one cares. Unless you're rich or powerful. And I don't know how to stop feeling so invisible." For the first time, the tension in the room began to dissolve. The crowd, once eager for drama, now watched with quiet reverence. The elderly man stepped back, his intervention complete. As the focus shifted entirely to the two women, Melania nodded, her expression apathetic. "I don't have all the answers," she admitted, "but I do believe we're stronger when we talk to each other, not past each other. Maybe today can be a start." The woman wiped her eyes, her anger replaced by a tentative hope. "Maybe," she said softly. The crowd seemed to collectively exhale, the atmosphere now charged with a different energy, a shared understanding that they had witnessed something rare, a genuine moment of connection in the midst of chaos. As the crowd began to disperse, the air in the boutique felt lighter. Almost transformed. Shoppers exchanged glances, some even sharing quiet smiles. The tension that had filled the space moments ago had given way to a rare sense of unity. People weren't just leaving with shopping bags. They were leaving with a story, one that carried a message far greater than the scene they had just witnessed. The woman still standing near Melania seemed calmer now. Her posture had softened, her earlier frustration replaced by something else entirely. A quiet introspection. She looked at Melania, who extended a hand not as a gesture of formality, but as a human connection. "Thank you for speaking your truth," Melania said. "It's not easy to confront someone, and I appreciate your honesty." The woman hesitated for a moment before taking her hand. "And thank you for listening. I didn't expect that," she admitted. "I thought you'd just walk away." Melania smiled faintly, her grip firm but gentle. Walking away never solves anything. As the woman left the boutique, the elderly man who had intervened earlier caught Melania's eye. He gave her a small nod of approval, a quiet acknowledgement of her grace under pressure. She returned the gesture with a slight smile, then turned her attention back to the handbag she had been browsing earlier. For the onlookers, it wasn't just an altercation. It was a moment that reminded them of the power of empathy, of standing firm but open in the face of conflict. It wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about recognizing the humanity in each other, even when emotions ran high. Moments like this don't just happen. They teach us something. In a world so often divided by anger and misunderstanding, perhaps the greatest strength we can show is choosing connection over conflict. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire, challenge, and remind us of the power of human connection.